Welcome to my channel FemVision. I never thought a casual dare over wine and laughter could spiral into something that would completely rewrite the rules of our relationship. But then again, I've always known Isabella had a way of seeing through the surface of people, peeling away the ordinary to expose the secret layers underneath. That's probably why I fell for her so hard. Her confidence was intoxicating, her intuition razor-sharp, and the way she challenged me, well, it made life feel electric. I'm Alex, 24, a software developer by trade, a late-night gamer by habit, and, well, a secret crossdresser by inclination. Not because I had some hidden obsession or a scandalous desire. I wasn't that kind of person, but because something in me craved the experience. The feel of satin against skin, the weight of heels beneath my feet, the artistry of makeup tracing curves and shadows. It made me feel more alive than the fluorescent office lights ever could. It was my private indulgence, a layer of myself I only allowed to exist behind closed doors. Isabella doesn't know the full extent of it. She knows I have quirks. She knows I like certain aesthetics, certain styles, and she teases me endlessly about my fascination with fashion magazines. But she has no idea that I've spent hours transforming in front of the mirror, experimenting with every contour, every outfit, every brushstroke. Our apartment was a cozy two-bedroom space on the third floor of a quiet street lined with small cafes and bakeries. The living room, where most of the action happened, was warm and intimate, with soft lights spilling from lamps, a beige couch piled with pillows, and a small corner where I'd set up my own studio, a vanity table with lights, brushes, and a small collection of dresses tucked neatly in a wardrobe I called the treasure chest. It was late evening, one of those nights when the city lights reflected in the windows and everything seemed suspended in amber. Isabella was at the kitchen counter, pouring herself a glass of wine, looking effortlessly stunning in a fitted black dress that hugged her in all the right places. She had that half-smile on her lips, the one that could make anyone feel like they were under a microscope, caught between desire and scrutiny. "Alex," she said, turning her gaze to me, "I have an idea. And I want you to promise me you'll be honest." I raised an eyebrow, curiosity piqued. "An idea? Sounds dangerous." She laughed, that low melodic sound that made my chest tighten. "Maybe a little. But it'll be fun. I want to try something new. And I think you'll enjoy it too." I leaned against the doorway, watching her as she set the wine down. There was a spark in her eyes, that unmistakable gleam of mischief that meant she had thought this through far more thoroughly than I would ever suspect. "What kind of new?" I asked cautiously. She stepped closer, lowering her voice. "I want to play with roles. I want to make you into someone else for a little while. Just to see how it feels." My heart skipped a beat, a mixture of alarm and intrigue swirling in my chest. "Someone else? How exactly?" Her grin widened. "I want to dress you up. Make you feminine. Pretty. My little experiment." I blinked, caught somewhere between amusement and panic. My private indulgence, the one thing I'd hidden behind closed doors, was suddenly being handed to me on a silver platter by the woman I loved. And not just handed. She was encouraging me, almost demanding it, with that look that made saying no impossible. You mean like, crossdress?" I asked, my voice betraying both excitement and fear. "Yes," she said simply, as though it were the most natural thing in the world. "I want to see it. I want to see you in my world, in my style, in a version of you that you've never let anyone else see. And I promise, it's just us. Just a game. But I have a feeling you're going to love it." Her words hung in the air, electric and dangerous. My pulse quickened. This was my secret life, the one I had carefully curated, suddenly stepping into the light, but with Isabella leading the way. There was fear, yes. Fear of judgment, fear of exposure, fear of losing control. But mingled with that was a thrill, a rush I hadn't anticipated. This was the first time anyone, especially someone I loved, had invited me to fully explore it in front of them. I glanced at the vanity table in the corner, at the neatly folded dresses, the carefully lined brushes, the subtle shades of lipstick that had become part of my private ritual. Suddenly, the temptation to dive in, to surrender to this experience fully, was overwhelming. I don't know what to say," I murmured, almost breathless. "You don't have to say anything," Isabella said, her hand brushing lightly against mine. "Just trust me. Let me guide you. Let's see who you can become when you step into this world." I swallowed, trying to calm the surge of adrenaline that prickled my skin. Part of me wanted to run, retreat into the safety of ordinary jeans and a hoodie. Part of me wanted to throw caution to the wind, to embrace the silky temptation, to let Isabella show me what I'd only dared to imagine in private. And before I could think any further, she smiled that disarming, irresistible smile and whispered, "Come on. Don't make me wait." In that moment I realized everything had changed. The apartment, the evening, even my heartbeat. It all felt charged like the air before a storm. I was standing at the threshold of a world I had never dared to explore openly. A world of dresses, of high heels, of makeup, of transformation. A world that could bring exhilaration, shame, pleasure, or even danger. And with Isabella leading the way, I knew one thing for certain. Nothing would ever feel the same again. I nodded slowly, heart racing, and took the first tentative step toward the vanity table, toward the dress, toward the reflection of a person I had kept hidden for so long. And as Isabella watched me, eyes bright with anticipation, I felt something stir deep inside. A mixture of fear, excitement, and a thrilling sense of liberation. This was the beginning. I stood frozen in front of the vanity table, my fingers hovering over the smooth fabrics and delicate brushes. My chest tightened as I realized just how far I was stepping out of my comfort zone. Crossdressing had always been my private escape. A hidden corner of my identity where I could explore myself without fear or judgment. But now, with Isabella watching, guiding, encouraging, it was no longer hidden. "Relax," she said softly, moving behind me. Her fingers brushed mine lightly as she picked up a soft powder brush. "We're just playing. Just exploring. You don't have to be perfect." I swallowed hard, trying to focus on her words while my mind raced. Perfect? Who was I trying to be perfect for? Myself? Her? Or some imagined version of a woman I had never truly dared to become? She began gently sweeping powder over my cheeks, her touch light but deliberate. I flinched slightly, both from the unfamiliar sensation and the intimacy of it. My reflection in the mirror already looked different. Softer, lighter, almost unrecognizable. And the thrill of seeing it, of feeling it, made my pulse spike. "You're going to look amazing," Isabella murmured, her voice low, almost hypnotic. "Just trust me." I nodded, though my throat felt dry. This was more than just makeup. It was a transformation of identity, of perception. Every stroke on my face was a tiny act of surrender, a step into someone new yet intimately me. The blush on my cheeks, the faint shimmer on my eyelids, the careful line of eyeliner, they weren't just cosmetics. They were keys, unlocking parts of myself I had hidden even from my own consciousness. When she handed me the wig, my hands trembled. Its silky strands fell between my fingers like water. I hesitated, staring at my reflection. Who was I becoming? And more importantly, did I even want to go back? "Do it," Isabella whispered, her voice teasing but firm. "Put it on. See the real magic." With a shaky hand, I lifted the wig and placed it on my head. The weight was strange but comforting, a crown of possibility. I adjusted it carefully, and when I looked in the mirror, my jaw dropped. My reflection was someone new, soft, elegant, and undeniably feminine. Yet there was something thrilling about recognizing myself in her eyes. I could feel my heart hammering against my rib cage, a mixture of exhilaration and fear. Isabella's eyes sparkled with delight, clearly enjoying my reaction. "You see it, don't you?" she asked, voice low. "This version of you, she's incredible." I nodded, unable to find words. The sensation of silk against my skin, the gentle pull of the dress she handed me, the unfamiliar weight of heels on my feet. It was intoxicating. Vulnerable, yes, but also electrifying. I felt exposed, yet more alive than I had ever felt alone in my room. "Walk for me," Isabella said suddenly, a mischievous grin on her lips. I hesitated. Walking in heels wasn't easy, and doing it while transformed added another layer of complexity. But her gaze was unwavering, expectant, challenging. With a deep breath, I stepped forward, wobbling slightly, the click of the heels echoing in the quiet apartment. Each step felt like a confession, a declaration, a tiny act of bravery. "Perfect," she whispered. "Absolutely perfect." Her praise made my chest swell, but it also intensified the internal conflict gnawing at me. Part of me wanted to fully immerse myself, to embrace this identity completely. Another part of me trembled at the thought of exposure, of judgment, of losing control. I was standing at the edge of something dangerous, something intoxicating, and I didn't know if I could step back once I crossed the line. Isabella stepped closer, adjusting the straps of the dress gently, her hands brushing against my shoulders. "You know," she murmured, "there's something addictive about this. Seeing you like this. It's almost too good to be true." Her words sent a shiver down my spine. I wasn't sure if it was fear, arousal, or the thrill of shared intimacy, but it hit me deeply. She wasn't just guiding me, she was awakening something in me that had always lingered beneath the surface. We spent the next hour slowly exploring the transformation. She helped me choose the perfect outfit, each piece selected to highlight curves and lines I had only glimpsed in private fantasies. Makeup, accessories, even the way I held myself. Everything was a lesson in becoming someone new, yet staying intimately me. And yet with every step my mind raced. Could I keep this secret? How would it feel to live as her creation for more than just an evening? What would my friends, my coworkers, even my family think if they ever saw this version of me? Isabella seemed to sense my hesitation. She leaned in close, her breath warm against my ear. "It's okay to be scared," she whispered. "It's okay to feel exposed. That's part of the thrill. And part of why it feels so good." Her words struck a chord I hadn't expected. He was right. The fear, the vulnerability, the uncertainty, it all heightened the experience, made it feel more real, more intoxicating. I realized then that this wasn't just a game for her. It was a shared adventure, a secret world we were exploring together. As the night wore on, the apartment seemed to shrink, becoming a private universe where only we existed. The outside world, the pressures, the judgments, they all faded away. And in that bubble, I found myself enjoying every second, reveling in the thrill of transformation, the intimacy of trust, and the delicious tension between fear and desire. But even as I immersed myself, a small, nagging thought lingered at the edges of my mind. The outside world wasn't gone. And neither were the consequences. A sudden knock at the door jolted me, heart racing. My first instinct was panic. Who could it be at this hour? But Isabella's calm voice cut through my fear. "Stay here," she whispered. "Don't move. Let me handle it." Even as she moved toward the door, I felt a surge of adrenaline, a reminder that our private world was fragile, that exposure could come at any moment. And with that realization, the thrill deepened. The stakes had been raised. The game had just become real. And for the first time, I understood that crossdressing wasn't just about clothing or makeup. It was about identity, trust, and surrender. About exploring the deepest parts of oneself in a world that often demanded conformity. And with Isabella by my side, guiding, teasing, challenging, I knew I was about to discover just how far I could go. The knock at the door had jolted me out of my reverie, but Isabella handled it with ease. I stayed frozen in front of the mirror, feeling the weight of the heels beneath my feet and the silky dress brushing my thighs. My reflection stared back at me, confident and feminine, but also vulnerable. Every curve, every detail screamed exposure, and my pulse raced with both excitement and dread. Isabella returned, shaking her head slightly, a bemused smile on her lips. "It's just a delivery," she whispered, handing me a small package. Her eyes gleamed with mischief, as though the real fun was only just beginning. I took the package with trembling fingers, my mind still reeling from the transformation. My reflection had become intoxicating. I couldn't look away. The wig cascaded around my shoulders, framing a face that felt both familiar and foreign. I ran a hand lightly over my cheekbones, over the soft line of eyeliner, and shivered. "This is unreal," I muttered almost to myself. "I feel different. Not just like the clothes, but like me and someone else all at once." Isabella's grin widened. "Exactly. That's the magic of it. The thrill, the secret, it changes everything." I wanted to argue, to say it wasn't just about the thrill, that there was something more profound in the way I felt right now. But the words caught in my throat. The truth was, I didn't fully understand it myself. The combination of fear, vulnerability, and liberation was dizzying. After the delivery distraction passed, Isabella suggested we take the next step. "I want to see you out of your comfort zone," she said. "Let's explore the persona fully. Let's push boundaries tonight." My stomach twisted. The excitement warred with hesitation, but I nodded, trusting her. She guided me to a small collection of outfits she had thoughtfully selected. Soft, elegant dresses, playful skirts, and a few daring ensembles I had never dared wear even in private. Each piece was an invitation and a challenge. "Try this one," she said, handing me a black lace dress. "It's bold, but it's you. Trust me." I slipped into the dress with her guidance, feeling the silky fabric cling to my curves. The reflection in the mirror made my breath hitch. The combination of makeup, wig, heels, and now this dress transformed me into someone else entirely, a version of myself I had only ever imagined. And yet, the thrill wasn't just in the appearance. It was in the acknowledgement. I was allowing someone else, someone I trusted completely, to see me fully. Isabella stepped closer, brushing a lock of hair from my face. "Look at you," she whispered, her voice low and intense. "You're stunning. Absolutely breathtaking." Her praise made my heart race, but it also awakened a subtle fear. What if this wasn't just play anymore? What if the thrill of being admired, of being feminine and seen this way, became more than a secret indulgence? Could I handle it? Would I want to go back? The first test came unexpectedly. A neighbor from the floor below knocked at the door, asking for a small favor. Something trivial but enough to require me to answer. Panic surged through me. My reflection, my persona, my secret, all felt exposed in an instant. Isabella, sensing my fear, whispered, "Stay here. Let me handle it. Don't move." But I couldn't stay still. My heels clicked against the floor as I hesitated, frozen in the open space of our living room. Every sound, the neighbor's voice, the faint hum of traffic outside, my own heartbeat, felt amplified, a reminder that my secret was fragile. She returned moments later, smiling. "He didn't suspect a thing. You're safe for now." Safe. The word echoed in my mind. I wasn't sure if I believed it. Every nerve in my body screamed that exposure could come at any moment. But at the same time, the thrill of near discovery made my pulse race with a dangerous exhilaration. Do you really enjoy this?" I asked her quietly, voice barely above a whisper. Her eyes softened and she stepped closer. "More than you realize. Seeing you embrace this, it's intoxicating. And I love how much you trust me." Her words sent shivers down my spine. I realized in that moment that this wasn't just about clothes or makeup. It was about power, intimacy, and the delicate balance between fear and pleasure. I was no longer just exploring a persona. I was surrendering to it, to her, and to a thrill I had never anticipated. As the night deepened, she guided me further. We experimented with different hairstyles, practiced walking in heels, and even explored subtle body language. How to tilt my head, move my hands, and carry myself with the elegance that matched the appearance. Each adjustment felt like a revelation, a subtle unlocking of a hidden side of me. And with each step the tension grew. My apartment, once a sanctuary, now felt like a stage. Each movement was observed, each glance reflected. The line between game and reality blurred. I could feel the persona becoming more real than my everyday self, and the excitement was intoxicating, but so was the fear. At one point, Isabella suggested taking photos. "Just for fun," she said. But as the camera clicked and flashed, I realized the truth. These images weren't just memories. They were proof. Evidence of a transformation that could never be unseen. And somewhere deep down, the thought thrilled me as much as it terrified me. "You're incredible," she whispered after reviewing the photos. "I can't believe this is the same person I knew yesterday." Her words both exhilarated and frightened me. Who was I becoming? Was this just a game, a flirtation with a hidden desire, or the beginning of something more permanent? Then, just as I was settling into the strange comfort of the persona, the suspense escalated again. The doorbell rang, unexpected, urgent, insistent. My heart leaped into my throat. My mind raced. A friend? A delivery? Or someone who could see everything? Isabella's calm voice cut through my panic. "Stay here. Don't move. Let me handle it." I nodded, gripping the edge of the vanity for support. My reflection stared back at me, the woman I had become, trembling with fear and exhilaration all at once. And in that moment I understood. Nothing would ever be the same. The doorbell rang again, louder this time. My pulse thumped in my ears. Exposure wasn't just a possibility anymore. It was a heartbeat away. And as Isabella moved toward the door, I felt a strange mixture of fear, excitement, and anticipation. This was more than crossdressing. This was a test, a challenge of trust, identity, and desire. And I knew the real suspense was only just beginning. The doorbell rang again, more insistent this time. My heart leaped into my throat and I froze mid-step, the heels threatening to betray my balance. Isabella's hand brushed against mine, grounding me for a fraction of a second before she disappeared toward the door. I could hear voices, strangers or maybe someone we knew. My pulse pounded like a drum in my ears. I stared at my reflection, the woman staring back at me, silk dress clinging perfectly to my curves, makeup flawless, wig cascading down my shoulders. I didn't recognize her. I didn't recognize myself. Fear and thrill twisted together in a visceral knot. Every nerve ending was alive with anticipation, dread, and desire. The first visitor stepped into the apartment. A familiar voice. Jake, Isabella's coworker who had come to drop off some documents she'd forgotten at the office. I froze, unsure if I could stay calm, unsure if my persona could withstand this scrutiny. "Oh. Hey Alex," he said cheerfully, completely unaware. "Is Isabella home?" I forced a smile, trying to sound natural, but my voice quivered slightly. Isabella appeared from around the corner, calm, composed, and perfectly in control. "She's upstairs," she said smoothly. "I'm just sorting things out." Jake's gaze fell on me and for a split second something flickered in his eyes. Recognition? Curiosity? Confusion? I held my breath, feeling every second stretch into eternity. My hands trembled slightly, the heels threatening to betray my balance again. "Oh, wow," he said finally, a small smile tugging at his lips. "You look different." Different. The word hung in the air like a challenge. I could feel my cheeks flush, both from embarrassment and from the subtle thrill that came from being noticed, admired even in this new persona. Isabella noticed my tension and moved closer, her hand brushing against mine in silent reassurance. "You like it?" she asked, a teasing lilt to her voice. Jake chuckled nervously, clearly caught off guard. "Yeah, it's impressive." Every word felt like a spotlight on me. The thrill of exposure mixed with terror, creating a heady cocktail of adrenaline and arousal. I realized that this was exactly what I had been craving. The tension, the scrutiny, the delicate dance between vulnerability and confidence. But just as relief washed over me, the real challenge arrived. My phone buzzed on the counter. A message from one of my coworkers asking if I could join a late-night project call. Panic surged. Could I leave the apartment like this? Could I appear on a video call looking like this? Exposure wasn't just physical, it was digital too. Isabella caught my glance, understanding instantly. "Stay here," she whispered. "We'll handle it. Trust me." I nodded, though my pulse didn't slow. The apartment suddenly felt smaller, every corner a potential trap. My reflection in the mirror was both my shield and my vulnerability. The woman I had become was real, too real, and the stakes had never felt higher. Isabella led me to the bedroom, closing the door behind us. "We're going to make this fun," she said, her hands deftly adjusting my dress. "But we need to test boundaries tonight. Are you ready?" I hesitated, heart racing. "Ready?" "I think so," I whispered, unsure if I was speaking for myself or for the persona staring back at me. The first real test came in the form of photography. Isabella wanted to capture every angle, every subtle detail. The tilt of my head, the curve of my hip, the elegance of my hands. Each click of the camera felt like an exposure of my soul, every shutter a reminder that the secret I had kept for so long was now being shared, admired, and celebrated. "You're incredible," she murmured after reviewing a few shots. "Look at you. I've never seen anyone like this." Her words ignited a strange mix of pride and anxiety. I felt powerful, vulnerable, and utterly exposed all at once. And as she continued photographing me, her instructions became more daring. Poses that challenged my comfort zone, angles that accentuated the transformation, movements that blurred the line between play and reality. The intensity increased when Isabella suggested we try an outing. A short walk to the nearby cafe. "Just a quick trip," she said. "To see how it feels outside. Trust me." My stomach knotted. Outside. Public. Exposure. My pulse skyrocketed. The apartment, with its warm lights and familiar corners, had been a sanctuary. The world beyond the door was unpredictable. And yet the thrill was irresistible. As we stepped onto the street, every step in heels was a test of balance and courage. Every passerby was a potential observer, a possible judge. My hands trembled slightly, clutching my purse, and my heart hammered in my chest. But Isabella's presence was grounding, a constant reminder that I wasn't alone in this journey. The cafe was quiet, dimly lit, and surprisingly welcoming. I kept my gaze low, heart racing with every glance from strangers. The sensation of being observed, being noticed as someone I had only imagined, was intoxicating and terrifying. Each sip of coffee, each casual movement was a declaration. I could exist as her creation, as this feminine persona in the outside world. But the tension escalated when a familiar figure entered. The barista from my regular coffee spot, someone who knew me well. Recognition flickered in his eyes, and for a heartbeat I froze. My secret was on the edge of exposure. Isabella noticed immediately, placing a calming hand on my shoulder. "Relax," she whispered. "Breathe. You're safe." I nodded, though my pulse refused to slow. Each interaction, each glance, each subtle acknowledgement from the world outside was a test. A challenge to my confidence, my identity, and my ability to maintain control. Back at the apartment, the suspense continued. The knock at the door returned, this time more urgent. I knew instinctively, this wasn't just chance. Exposure was imminent. Isabella handled it with grace, opening the door to reveal another neighbor, a friend of Jake's, someone who had never met me in this persona. My heart raced, every nerve alive with fear and anticipation. Could I keep the secret? Would I falter? And then the ultimate test, the phone rang again. A work video call. My hands shook as I answered, Isabella's hand guiding mine, steadying me. The camera turned on and I saw myself reflected on the screen, fully transformed, fully exposed, and utterly undeniable. The voices on the call were curious, asking questions, commenting on my appearance. My pulse spiked. Exposure was real, but so was the exhilaration. The adrenaline, the fear, the thrill. It was overwhelming. I realized then that this persona was more than just a game. It was a part of me, powerful, intoxicating, and utterly transformative. By the end of the night I was exhausted, trembling, yet exhilarated. Every close call, every subtle recognition, every glance and comment had pushed me to the edge. And yet I craved more. The thrill, the exposure, the intimacy of surrendering to Isabella's guidance. As I collapsed onto the bed, heels discarded, dress slightly rumpled, wig slightly askew, I stared at my reflection in the mirror. The woman I had become, the secret I had embraced, the thrill I had surrendered to, it was all real. And I knew deep in my core that nothing would ever feel the same again. The climax of the night wasn't just the external challenges or the close calls. It was the realization that I had crossed a threshold, that the persona I had explored in private was now undeniably alive, thrillingly powerful, and irrevocably a part of me. And with Isabella lying beside me, eyes sparkling with satisfaction and mischief, I understood something else too. This was just the beginning. The apartment was quiet now, or at least it seemed to be. My heels were tossed aside, my dress slightly rumpled from the night's frantic movements, and my wig slightly askew. I collapsed onto the bed, trying to calm the rapid thudding of my heart. My reflection in the mirror stared back at me, soft, feminine, confident, but also vulnerable. Isabella sat beside me, her hand brushing lightly against mine. "You did amazing tonight," she whispered. "Better than you even imagined." I wanted to believe her, to feel relief and pride. But the fear lingered, gnawing at the edges of my exhilaration. What if someone had seen me? What if someone had recognized me, even in a fleeting moment? The idea that my secret could be discovered was a shadow that refused to leave. I don't know," I admitted softly. "It feels incredible, but what if someone finds out? What if it gets out?" Isabella tilted her head, a mischievous glint in her eyes. "Then we deal with it. Together. You trust me, right?" I nodded, though the knot in my stomach didn't loosen. I wanted to trust her completely, to surrender fully to the thrill and intimacy we had shared. And yet a part of me, small, cautious but insistent, warned me that tonight had changed everything. We moved to the living room, where the night's chaos had left small traces. A misplaced heel, a slightly crumpled dress, a faint smear of makeup on the counter. Each item was a symbol of the night's transformation, a tangible reminder of the thrill and the risk. And then I noticed it, a shadow moving outside the window. At first I thought it was my imagination, a trick of the streetlights. But then the shadow shifted again, deliberate, watching. My pulse spiked, fear clawing at me. Someone's there, I whispered, my voice barely audible. Isabella's eyes followed mine, narrowing. Stay calm, she said, her voice steady but firm. Don't let them see your fear. But it was too late. The thrill of the night, the vulnerability of the transformation, the exposure I had willingly embraced, it all coalesced into a single, undeniable fact. Someone was watching. My mind raced. Was it a neighbor? Someone from work? Or, worse, someone who might recognize me in this feminine persona? The thought of being exposed, of losing control of this carefully curated secret, sent shivers down my spine. Isabella moved closer, her hand gripping mine. We've handled worse, she whispered. But we need to be smart. Don't move. Don't react. Let me deal with it. The shadow outside didn't waver. Every instinct screamed that I should hide, run, escape. But the woman staring back at me in the mirror was confident, poised, and alive in a way I had never felt before. And despite the fear, despite the uncertainty, I couldn't deny the thrill that surged through me. What if they come inside? I murmured, panic lacing my words. Isabella smiled faintly, a mixture of reassurance and challenge. Then we face them. Together. But right now we wait. I sank into the couch, my heart pounding, the thrill of exposure intertwining with terror. I was caught between two selves, the cautious, fearful version of me that wanted to retreat, and the transformed, confident persona that reveled in the risk, the thrill, and the intimacy of the night. And then a sudden sound, a deliberate knock at the door, louder and more insistent than any before. My breath caught in my throat. Go, Isabella whispered, her hand pressing against mine. Answer it. I hesitated, frozen. My reflection in the mirror stared back at me, eyes wide, lips parted, a perfect mask of femininity and vulnerability. One step closer to the door felt like stepping into the unknown. Another knock. Louder. More urgent. And then a voice, familiar, unmistakable, called out my name. Alex, are you in there? My stomach dropped. My heart raced. Exposure wasn't a possibility anymore. It was inevitable. I turned to Isabella, panic and thrill mingling in my chest. It's them, I whispered. They know. They're here. Her expression was calm, unreadable. Maybe, she said. Or maybe it's just curiosity. Either way, this is your moment. Are you going to hide or are you going to face it? I swallowed hard. The weight of the night, the transformation, the thrill, and the fear, all pressed against me. I could feel the pulse of adrenaline in every vein. One step, one choice could change everything. The doorknob rattled. My pulse thundered in my ears. I glanced at the mirror, seeing the woman I had become, the persona I had embraced, staring back at me with wide, daring eyes. I took a deep breath. And then the story ended, not with resolution but with the edge of uncertainty, the thrill of the unknown, and the terrifying, intoxicating possibility of exposure.